I put a couple questions on the board. These are tangential to our discussion today, and I'll talk about them a little bit if we have time. So what is the better level, not the best, to test into credit from non-credit and why? And this question here, I'm actually in the process of doing research, so I'll be working this semester and into the summer if I need to. What levels are students testing into non-credit and credit ESL in the last 10 years and the last 5 years? Because I have a suspicion that there's been a shift. And so I want to look at the hard data and find out if my suspicion is correct or just my own private work. So let's start out the panel by having each panel member introduce themselves, and I'm going to give you a minute.
My name is Cordaro, and I teach English at the 201 Church Street community with low-income housing, but my student population is primarily Yemen students, all Arabic speaking, very low levels of education and literacy.
My name is Schulte. I teach at the American Language Institute, which is attached to San Francisco State University.
My name is Bophany, Huot. Most people here call me Bo. This is my center, my school. I teach all levels in non-credit, from literacy, from people who don't have any education in their first language, all the way to the highest class that is right before you enter credit.
My name is Robert Griffiths, and I teach non-credit at the downtown campus, and I teach non-credit ESL. I also teach vocational office training program, which I do with Jessica, where we have students who are in a one-year program and they're preparing to look for jobs, work at jobs, and then my 12 o'clock class is a call computer ESL class, and the audience for that class is much different than my others, and it tends to be more of an elderly population.
My name is Neela Chatterjee, and I'm actually in 2 departments. I teach credit in the IDST department, which is the Interdisciplinary Studies department. And I also teach in ESL, and I'm sort of a campus surfer. You know, I go wherever the job's been given to me, teach whatever I can teach, to whomever I will teach. So I've taught everybody and anybody.
My name is Jessica Buxsbaum, and I teach with Robert at the downtown campus in the vocational office training program. But I also teach all levels of credit and have taught in credit and also have taught in the international program at UC Berkeley recently. And I think I'm here because I have been teaching in a computer lab with ESL students since the late 90s. So I have seen quite a transition over that time in terms of students and where they are with their technology skills.
Jessica, do you mind if we start with you?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to give you the general question. So what changes, if any, have you noticed in the student population in your experience?
So my focus in talking today is really about technology skills. You know, we're all here because we're ESL teachers, but I really strongly believe that one of the things we're teaching is technology and technology skills, and that's part of literacy for our students. And you know, many years ago when I started at City College, I taught in the VIP program, and we had students from all over the world coming and taking a call class, which is computer-assisted language learning. And at that time, some of you may remember, students would come into the class and pick up the mouse like this and go, how do I use this? And really, they struggled to even figure out how to click on something. And obviously, that's not the case anymore at all. Even students with hardly any level of education, you know how to use their cell phone, and they're interacting with some kind of technology. And I think, you know, our more savvy students are in class, and when you write a vocabulary word on the board, they're immediately going to their phone, looking it up in the dictionary, translating it, and they have this incredible language learning resource at their fingertips, either mobile phone or their knowledge of how to find things online. So to me, it's been an incredible transition of our world that is reflected in our classroom.
So most people on the planet will agree that we are in the eye of the storm in the biggest revolution since the Industrial Revolution. The only advantage we have is that we can look back at the Industrial Revolution and imagine the stresses on agrarian population suddenly faced with clocks, factories, the loss of the village, and mass migration into urban centers. So that's the only advantage we have. Bophany, you mentioned that you've seen a significant change in the students at the Chinatown campus, largely related to this revolution. Can you describe the shift and talk about what this means both for curriculum and methodology?
So let me give a really quick, really short background for those who are not familiar with what I do. We used to be at an old site on Gilbert Street, and we just moved here. This is our second year, I think. This is on the building, so we've been here for 2 years now, 2 academic years. When we were at the old site, all of our students are pretty much 99% Chinese. And of those 99%, they have very little education, very little computer skill, if none. And now that, in the past 2 years now that we're here, I'd like to give you a couple of numbers, statistics. I was talking to the deans and a couple of colleagues, telling them about what we're doing today. And the dean gave me this statistics. She said in the next 5 years, the largest group at CNV, when we were at the old site, we are the center for seniors. So that population has also changed. So within the next 5 years, the largest group at our school, Chinatown North Beach campus and the financial district, the age group will be 25 to 45. We usually get a lot of students in the 60s, 70s, and even 80s. And that population has slowly changed, and our seniors population is going to decrease. The 18 to 25 years old and the 45 and older groups are shrinking in our center. 18 to 25 and 45 older, they are shrinking. So the middle group is growing, the youngest group is shrinking, and the senior group is also shrinking. Housing makes a huge impact for our center. I don't know if you have seen in the news, evictions is happening a lot here. And she said that what happened is it's going to push a lot of our poor population out of this area. So the big questions for us is how are we going to survive remaining the way we've been teaching? Are we going to change? How are we going to adapt? I think our biggest challenge that the new population that we've been seeing in the 2 years that we've been here, so we have that middle group is really growing, and that middle group come with higher education. So in my class, for example, this semester I'm teaching 7, 8, 9. This is the group that's going to move into some sort of certificate program or a 2-year degrees or 4-year degree. In my 7, 8, 9 class, I would say that 3/4, if not more, of my students have college education from their home country. And that is a huge contrast from our old population where they are peasants, agrarian, they can't even hold a pencil. They are highly educated. They also come from higher economic social status. They're terribly tech savvy. They come in and I give them the book slip and I say, make sure you buy this book. Our bookstore is open on X, Y, and Z day. And the first thing they'll ask me is, does this come in an e-format? Right? So that's some of the things. Let's see what else I have here. So I think for Chinatown North Beach Center, I think our biggest challenge is we still have the old group, even though they are shrinking, and we have this new group. So our biggest challenge, how are we going to adapt our curriculum, our course, and what we do, so that we meet both groups. So there have been tremendous amount of meeting and brainstorming and talking about how this is going to impact our curriculum. One of the thought is that perhaps we can have tracks or strand of two level. Like for example, you have a level 4, we will have maybe an academic track of level 4 and a level 4 that is more like the traditional adult ed. And we have to make, I think, our expectations very clear, and we, I think, would like the student to self-select. So example, students have to know that if they choose this track, I want to say academic, but my colleague doesn't like that word, but let's just use that for this panel discussion so that they know that the academic track means you'll have homework every night, you'll have regular tests, you'll have quizzes, you'll be using computer to do things on the computer. so there are expectations that need to be spelled out to the students so they know. We're also very concerned because in the non-credit there is open enrollment, open exit. So people are saying, well, how is that going to work out if you choose one track and you're not happy with it? And so the discussion continues, and one way to solve that is to say, from the point of entry, not the first 2 weeks of semester, because that doesn't work for us because we're open entry and open exit. But maybe we say, one week after the point of entry, when you register for a particular course, you try it out, and then you can still have movement. And then there's all kinds of talks of how we're going to do this, but I think our biggest challenge is to mesh the two groups, and how can we be effective, that we can serve these two populations that are really, really different. Another talk is that for us non-credit, for technology, I totally agree with Jessica. I've been doing what we call digital literacy since 2006 or so. And because of this panel, this week I polled my level 4 student. And level 4 is high beginner. So they're still beginners, but they're high beginners. I have about 50 in that class, and I get about 40 every day. So this week I polled the student, for example, I say 34 people answered the survey, and I asked something like, do you know how to use a computer? Out of 34, 23 said yes, right? And only one said no, and I don't want to learn. And 10 said, only one. And then 10 of them said, no, I don't know how to use a computer, but I want to learn, right? I have been taking all of my classes, including literacy, to the computer lab once a week. And so I asked, I said, do you like going to the computer on Friday? And out of 34 respond, 34 say yes. And so it's just to show you that I think they really understand that we can no longer teach the way we used to teach. And I think that for non-credit, perhaps a blended course would lend itself very well, because it allows those who can't come every day and those who need extra time to go online, to do the extra practice, to be able to look at the lessons that the teachers are presenting and try to keep up, or even better themselves in the courses being taught. So.
Christine actually teaches for free, and as a result of this panel, I'm hoping we're not pushing her out of a job. But Christine is actually serving an incredibly untapped, very large population in San Francisco. So Christine, can you talk about how your students have gone from being afraid to leave their apartments to entering the 201 Turk community room and to go on to enter non-credit City College classes?
Right, thank you. This program that I developed really evolved out of the beginning work of a social service group who was serving these women in the capacity of trying to address problems in domestic violence and abuse. And one of the very obvious reasons for their powerlessness was, lack of language, lack of understanding like where they even were in the world, and certainly the lack of ability to get around the city or understand anything about this culture. So I was contacted and asked to sort of develop this program. So I started with absolutely nothing. I have no resources. I make up all my own materials. What evolved from 3 years ago is really quite amazing. Many of these women have been here for years and were living upstairs at 201 Turk in their apartments or in other, low income places around the Tenderloin, and were absolutely terrified to come out of their apartments. Some of them were restricted, by various traditional mores. Others were just plain terrified.
But how many of these women are there?
It varies. I sometimes.
But I mean, you were talking about the
population as a whole. It's a little bit difficult to quantify because many of them do not like to self-identify if they fill out forms because they don't want to be identified as